The city stretched endlessly below, a sea of glowing lights and towering buildings. From the rooftop helipad of one of the tallest skyscrapers, Aaron loved to watch the sun slowly sink behind the horizon. It was his quiet place, far from the noise of engines, alarms, and the crowded streets. Here, the air was cooler, fresher, and the world felt a little lighter. Aaron often brought his sketchpad. He liked to draw the city from above, capturing the sharp lines of buildings, the shimmer of windows, and the tiny moving dots of people far below. It was his way of understanding the world, a way to calm his restless mind. Tonight, he sat on the edge of the helipad, legs dangling slightly over the side, and began tracing the skyline with careful strokes. He didn't notice the soft footsteps approaching behind him. Myra, a young pilot, landed her small shuttle on the rooftop helipad. She had been delivering passengers between planets all day, and the city lights made her feel a rare moment of peace. Unlike the bustling streets, the rooftop was quiet, almost serene. Her eyes wandered, taking in the view, and they stopped on the young man sitting at the edge. Aaron didn't look up. He was focused on the sunset and the shadows it cast over the city. Myra watched him for a moment, intrigued. There was something in the way he concentrated, the way his hands moved over the paper with careful precision. It reminded her of the focus required to fly through unpredictable skies. For a brief second, she felt a strange connection, even though she didn't know him. "Hi," she said softly, not wanting to startle him. Aaron blinked, looking up. He was surprised to see someone there. "Oh. Hi," he said, his voice slightly shaky. He wasn't used to visitors on the helipad, especially at sunset. "I hope I'm not disturbing you," Myra said, taking a step closer. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at his sketchpad. "Are you drawing the city?" "Yes," Aaron replied, a small smile forming. "I like to see it from above. Everything looks different up here, calmer, I guess." Myra nodded. "I know what you mean. Flying gives me a similar feeling. Up in the sky, far from everything, it's peaceful. You can think clearly." Aaron looked at her, suddenly aware of how close she was. "You fly?" he asked, curiosity mixing with admiration. "Yes," she said, smiling. "I'm a pilot. I mostly ferry passengers between planets, but sometimes I get to explore new routes." Her eyes wandered to the glowing horizon. "It's not always easy, but I love it." Aaron felt a warmth in his chest, a quiet fascination. There was something about Myra's confidence, the way she spoke about flying, that made him feel drawn to her. He didn't know why, but he wanted to know more about her. For a while, they simply watched the sunset together. The colors changed from orange to pink to deep purple, painting the city below in soft light. No words were needed. The silence itself felt comfortable, almost magical. Before leaving, Aaron picked up a small piece of paper. He folded it carefully into a paper plane and placed it on the railing, near where Myra stood. He didn't say anything, just smiled slightly. Myra noticed the plane and bent down to pick it up. She opened it and saw a simple sketch of the city, with two tiny figures sitting on the helipad under the sunset. A note was written at the bottom: "Sometimes the sky is better with company." Myra's heart skipped a beat. She looked up at Aaron, but he had already started packing his sketchpad. He looked away, pretending to be busy, though his smile lingered. "That's thoughtful," Myra said softly, tucking the paper into her jacket. Aaron shrugged lightly, still avoiding her gaze. "I like leaving small surprises." Makes the quiet a little more interesting. Myra laughed quietly, a sound that mixed with the wind. Well, I'll look forward to seeing more of your surprises, she said, giving him a wink before heading back to her shuttle. Aaron watched her go, his mind racing. Something about Myra lingered in his thoughts long after she disappeared from the helipad. He felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness, a feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time. As the last rays of sunlight faded and the city lights flickered on, Aaron returned to his sketchpad. He began drawing again, this time with a little more care, imagining what it would be like if Myra was there beside him. The helipad felt bigger somehow, filled with endless possibilities, and for the first time in a long while, Aaron felt hopeful. The next evening, the sun began its slow descent, painting the city in soft orange and pink hues. Myra returned to the rooftop helipad, curiosity tugging at her. She had thought about the paper plane from the day before all morning. The little sketch of the city, with the tiny figures on the helipad, had stayed in her mind. She wondered who had drawn it, and more importantly, why it felt so personal. When she reached the rooftop, the city below buzzing with distant activity, she noticed Aaron sitting in the same spot as yesterday. He was busy with his sketchpad, completely absorbed, his pencil moving gracefully across the paper. For a moment, she hesitated, unsure if she should approach. But curiosity won, and she stepped closer, careful not to startle him. Aaron sensed her presence and looked up. His eyes brightened slightly when he saw her. "Hi," he said quietly, a small smile forming. "Hi," Myra replied, smiling back. She held the paper plane from yesterday in her hand. "This is yours, right?" Aaron's face flushed faintly. "Yes. I thought someone might like it," he said, scratching the back of his neck. Myra laughed softly. "I liked it." "A lot," she said. "It made me smile." Encouraged, Aaron pulled out another sheet of paper from his pad. Without saying a word, he began folding it into a plane and slid it gently toward her. Myra caught it, curious to see what he had left this time. Unfolding it, she found a small drawing of the city from above again, but this time there were two figures looking up at the stars. A note read, "The sky is bigger with someone to share it with." Myra's heart warmed. She looked at Aaron, whose eyes were fixed on her face, waiting for a reaction. She smiled shyly. "You're very thoughtful," she said, tucking the plane into her jacket. Aaron shrugged, trying to hide his nervousness. "I just like making quiet places feel a little brighter," he said. For a while, they simply watched the city together. The wind was soft, carrying the distant hum of traffic and the occasional whir of a flying shuttle. They didn't need many words, the shared silence felt easy and comforting. Yet, there was an excitement underneath, a sense that something new was beginning. After a few minutes, Myra reached into her pocket and pulled out a small piece of paper. With a grin, she folded it into a plane and placed it on the railing near Aaron. "Your turn," she said playfully. Aaron picked it up and opened it carefully. Inside was a tiny drawing of two paper planes flying together above the city skyline. A note accompanied it, "Maybe we can fly together sometime." Aaron's eyes met Myra's, and they both laughed quietly. The playful exchange made the air between them lighter, warmer. It was the beginning of a game neither had expected, a quiet way to share thoughts and feelings without the awkwardness of words. Over the next few days, the rooftop became their meeting place. Each evening, one of them would leave a small paper plane, and the other would respond. Sometimes the planes carried sketches of the city, sometimes small messages about dreams and hopes. Each note revealed a little more about themselves. Through these exchanges, they learned that Aaron loved watching the stars, imagining distant planets and possibilities. Myra shared stories of the skies she had flown through, describing sunsets that stretched across multiple worlds and clouds that glowed with strange colors. Even though they were strangers in many ways, these small notes connected them, creating a bond neither had felt before. One evening, Myra arrived to find a plane already waiting on the railing. She picked it up and smiled at the careful detail in the drawing. Aaron had sketched the helipad at night, bathed in the soft glow of city lights, with a tiny figure standing in the center. The note read, "I wonder what it would be like if we could watch this together." Myra's smile softened. She looked out at the city, imagining standing there with Aaron. She realized how much she looked forward to these quiet moments, how much she wanted to know him more. Aaron, meanwhile, watched her from a distance. He had noticed how her eyes lit up every time she found one of his planes. That little spark made his chest feel lighter, almost like the city below was celebrating their connection. Though they had only communicated through paper planes, both felt a deepening closeness. As the sun set completely, casting a purple and gold glow over the city, Myra left the rooftop with one last glance at the railing. Another paper plane would wait for her tomorrow, another opportunity to share this quiet, growing bond. And somewhere deep inside, both Aaron and Myra felt the thrill of something new, something that could turn the quiet rooftop into a place where hearts might finally meet. The city below twinkled with countless lights as the evening sky deepened into shades of blue and purple. Aaron arrived at the rooftop helipad with his sketchpad, just as he had many evenings before. But tonight, there was a quiet excitement in his chest. Today, he had decided that the small paper planes and notes had taken their connection far enough. It was time to speak to Myra face to face. As he adjusted his sketchpad, he noticed her approaching from the stairwell. She carried a gentle smile, the kind that made the world seem calmer. The city wind brushed through her hair as she stepped onto the helipad, her eyes searching for him. When their eyes met, both felt a flutter of anticipation. "Hi," Myra said softly, her voice carrying in the stillness of the rooftop. "Hi," Aaron replied, his smile widening. For a moment, neither knew exactly what to say. The paper planes had been easy, playful, and safe, but speaking in person felt different, more real. Myra broke the silence. I really enjoyed your drawings. The little notes too. They made me look forward to coming here every evening." Aaron felt warmth spread through his chest. "I'm glad," he said. "I was a little nervous. I didn't know if you'd like them." Myra laughed quietly. "I loved them. Honestly, it's been fun, this little game of paper planes." She paused, her eyes scanning the city below. "I didn't expect to feel connected to someone just through notes. But here I am." Aaron nodded. "I know what you mean. I've spent a lot of time alone up here, drawing, thinking, and now, knowing someone's reading them, it feels different. Better." There was a pause, but it was comfortable. They both looked out at the horizon, the colors fading into the deep night sky. The city lights reflected in their eyes, making the moment feel almost magical. "I've always loved the sky," Myra said, breaking the silence. "Flying makes me feel free. But I've never had someone to share it with. Someone who sees it the way I do." Aaron looked at her, intrigued. "I think that's why I like the rooftop so much. Being above everything, seeing the city from a distance, it makes life feel simpler, like I can breathe easier." And now, sharing it with someone, it makes it even better. Myra smiled, noticing the way his eyes lit up when he spoke about his passion. "You really love drawing, don't you?" she asked. "I do," Aaron admitted. "It helps me understand the world. And sometimes, it helps me understand myself." Myra's expression softened. "I get that. Flying does the same for me. Up there, you feel small, but also, part of something bigger." They moved closer to the railing, leaning over to watch the city below. For a while, they simply stood together, side by side, sharing the quiet comfort of the rooftop. Each of them felt a deepening connection, a bond that went beyond words. "Would you like to see something?" Aaron asked suddenly. He turned his sketchpad toward her, revealing a new drawing. This one was different from the others. It showed the helipad at night, the city lights sparkling below, and two small figures standing side by side, looking out at the stars. Myra's eyes widened slightly. "This is beautiful," she said softly. Aaron smiled shyly. "I wanted to draw us. Or, what I imagine us might be like, sharing this moment." Myra felt her heart skip a beat. She reached out and lightly touched his arm. "I like it," she said. "I like it a lot." For a moment, they didn't speak. They just watched the stars appear in the night sky, each one feeling a sense of wonder. For the first time, the rooftop didn't feel like just a quiet escape, it felt like a place where something important could begin. As the night deepened, Myra glanced at the shuttle pad, then back at Aaron. "I'm glad I came tonight," she said softly. "Talking to you, it feels right." Aaron nodded, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Me too. I've been hoping we'd finally meet like this." They stayed there together until the city below grew quiet and the wind cooled. Neither wanted to leave, but the rooftop had given them something new, a shared moment, a first conversation, and a spark of connection that neither could ignore. As Myra finally descended the stairs to her shuttle, Aaron watched her go, his heart full of quiet hope. For the first time in a long while, the rooftop felt like more than just a place to watch the sunset. It felt like the beginning of something that could grow, something meaningful. And both Aaron and Myra knew that tomorrow, the paper planes would still be fun, but now, they had each other to talk to, laugh with, and maybe, one day, to share the sky. The sky over the city darkened unexpectedly, clouds rolling in fast like a wave ready to crash. Myra was guiding her small shuttle toward the rooftop helipad when the first drops of rain splashed against the cockpit window. She frowned, concentrating on landing, but the storm seemed to come out of nowhere. Meanwhile, Aaron was on the helipad, sketchpad in hand, hoping to capture the city lights at night. He noticed the sudden wind gusts and the darkening sky. Something in his chest tightened, a sense that tonight would not be as calm as usual. Myra's shuttle landed roughly, the wheels skidding slightly on the wet surface. She jumped out, shielding herself from the rain. The wind blew fiercely, tugging at her hair and clothes. Aaron rushed toward her, his sketchpad clutched tightly, trying to reach her safely. "Careful," he shouted over the roar of the wind. The storm came too fast. Myra laughed nervously, gripping the railing for balance. "I didn't expect it either. This storm, it's sudden." Aaron handed her his sketchpad and a piece of paper he had been holding. "Hold on to this. We can use it if we need to leave quickly," he said. His voice was steady, but his heart raced. They moved together toward the small shelter at the corner of the helipad. The rain pounded around them, and the city below blurred in sheets of water and light. Aaron held the sketchpad over both their heads like a makeshift umbrella. Myra laughed despite the chaos, the sound mixing with the wind and rain. "You're brave," she said. "Or maybe just crazy," she added with a grin. "Maybe a little of both," Aaron replied, smiling. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, the storm outside seemed to fade. It was just the two of them, standing close, sharing the thrill of the sudden chaos. They crouched together under the sketchpad, trying to stay dry. Aaron noticed Myra's hair plastered against her face, her jacket soaked. Without thinking, he reached out and brushed a wet strand away from her eyes. Their hands lingered slightly, and both felt a quiet shock at the closeness. "This is kind of exciting, in a strange way," Myra said, laughing again. "I never thought a storm would feel thrilling." Aaron nodded. "Sometimes the unexpected moments are the ones that matter the most," he said. He felt a warmth spread in his chest. The fear of the storm was real, but so was the feeling of being near her, sharing something unique and unplanned. As the wind howled and the rain drummed against the helipad, they shared stories to pass the time. Myra spoke about flying through storms on distant planets, about clouds that glowed with strange colors during lightning strikes. Aaron described the city from above, how the lights reflected in puddles and how quiet the streets could feel after a sudden downpour. For a while, it was easy. The storm outside felt almost like a friend, drawing them closer together. They laughed, shared small smiles, and discovered a comfort in the other's presence. The fear of the storm made them realize how much they valued being together in that moment. Then, a stronger gust of wind blew past, nearly knocking them off balance. Aaron caught Myra immediately, holding her steady against the railing. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them, a mixture of relief, admiration, and growing affection. Neither spoke for a long moment, letting the storm and their closeness fill the space. Finally, the rain began to lighten, the storm retreating as quickly as it had arrived. The city lights shimmered through the mist, casting reflections on the wet surfaces of the rooftop. Myra smiled, her eyes bright despite being damp from the rain. "Thank you," she said softly, "for being here, and helping me." Aaron shrugged, though his own smile was warm. "I couldn't let anything happen to you. Not after, well, after meeting you." Myra's heart skipped a beat. She looked at him, realizing how much she had grown to trust him in just a few short days. The storm had tested more than just their patience, it had shown them how important they were to each other. As the rain stopped completely, they stepped out from under the sketchpad, shaking off the remaining drops. The city below gleamed, fresh and bright, and the rooftop helipad smelled of wet concrete and rain. They both laughed, exhilarated, and a quiet understanding formed between them. Tonight, the storm had been sudden and wild, but it had brought them closer than ever. As Myra prepared to leave in her shuttle, she turned to Aaron with a small, shy smile. "I think we're more than just paper planes now." Aaron's heart raced. He nodded, unable to find words at first. "I think you're right," he said finally, his voice low but full of meaning. And with that, the rooftop, once just a quiet place for sketches and sunsets, became a place where hearts began to feel something stronger, something real, under the wild, fleeting storm. The city lights twinkled softly below as Aaron arrived at the rooftop helipad once again. The storm from the previous night had left the air fresh and crisp, carrying the faint scent of rain. He carried his sketchpad, but tonight he didn't feel like drawing. Something in his heart told him that this evening might be different. As he reached the helipad, Myra was already there, leaning against the railing and staring at the horizon. Her jacket was slightly damp from the earlier storm, and her hair still carried the softness of the rain. She looked peaceful, yet there was a hint of thoughtfulness in her eyes. "Hi," Aaron said softly, walking toward her. Myra turned and smiled. "Hi. I was just thinking." Aaron nodded. "About?" She hesitated, then took a deep breath. "About everything. Flying, the city, and this." She gestured vaguely between them. "You. Me. All of it?" Aaron's chest warmed. He stepped closer, careful to respect her space, yet wanting to be near. "I've been thinking about it too," he admitted. I like being here with you. More than I expected." Myra looked at him, her eyes softening. "I like it too. But sometimes, I feel lonely. Even when I'm flying among the stars, I feel far from everyone, like no one really sees me. And I don't know if that will ever change." Aaron felt a pang of understanding. He had always felt a little out of place, even in the busy city. "I know what you mean," he said quietly. "Sometimes, I feel invisible. Like I'm working hard on things that no one notices, and it gets lonely." Myra glanced at him, surprised. "You feel the same way?" Aaron nodded. "Yes. That's why this connection we have, it matters. It makes me feel seen, like someone understands me. And that's rare." They both fell silent for a moment, just looking at the city below. The lights reflected on puddles from the storm, casting a soft glow across the helipad. It was quiet, except for the distant hum of traffic and the occasional whistle of the wind. "I've never told anyone this," Myra said softly. "Even my friends. Flying is my passion, but it's also lonely sometimes. I always thought I had to handle everything on my own." Aaron reached into his sketchpad bag and pulled out a small sheet of paper. He handed it to her. "I don't know if this helps, but I drew something." Myra unfolded the paper carefully. It was a simple sketch of the helipad, the city lights below, and two tiny figures sitting close together, one reaching out a hand to the other. A note at the bottom read, "Sometimes, we don't have to be alone. You can let someone in." Myra's eyes glistened. She looked at Aaron, her lips forming a small, grateful smile. "Thank you," she whispered. I think I needed that." Aaron shrugged, though his own heart was racing. "I think we both do. We've been sharing quiet moments for a few days now, but I want to be more than notes and sketches. I want to share my thoughts with you, and maybe even help carry some of your burdens." Myra's hand brushed against his as she reached for the sketch. They didn't pull away. The touch was gentle, reassuring, and filled with unspoken understanding. "I'd like that," she said softly. "I want that too." For the next while, they spoke openly about their fears, their dreams, and the small insecurities they usually kept hidden. Myra talked about the loneliness of flying between planets, the weight of responsibility, and her fear of being forgotten. Aaron shared his worries about never making a meaningful impact, and the quiet sadness of being overlooked despite his hard work. As they spoke, something shifted between them. The rooftop was no longer just a place for sunsets or paper planes. It became a sanctuary where they could be honest, where they could be themselves without judgment. Every word, every glance, every small touch built a stronger bond. The night deepened, and the city lights seemed to shine a little brighter, as if celebrating their connection. Myra leaned back slightly, feeling safe and understood. Aaron looked at her, realizing how much he cared for her, how much he wanted to protect her and share these moments together. Before leaving, Myra handed him a small paper plane she had folded. "For tomorrow," she said, smiling softly. Aaron took it, holding it carefully. "I'll look forward to it," he said, a quiet excitement in his voice. As Myra walked to her shuttle, both of them knew that something had changed. Their feelings were no longer just playful curiosity or fleeting admiration, they were real, heartfelt, and growing stronger with every shared word. And as Aaron watched her disappear into the city lights below, he felt a quiet certainty: the rooftop helipad was no longer just a place to watch the sky, it had become the place where two hearts began to truly understand each other. The city was unusually quiet that night. The usual hum of traffic and distant engines seemed softer, almost as if the world had slowed down for a moment. Aaron arrived at the rooftop helipad, carrying his sketchpad, but tonight he didn't feel like drawing. The air was cool and clear, and the stars above were bright, scattered across the dark sky like tiny lanterns. Myra was already there, sitting on the edge of the helipad with her legs dangling over the side. She looked up at the sky, her eyes reflecting the sparkling stars. When she noticed Aaron, she waved gently. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi," Aaron replied, smiling as he walked toward her. Tonight, there was a calm excitement in the air, a quiet anticipation that both could feel. They sat together on the railing, not speaking at first, just watching the stars appear one by one. The city below twinkled, lights reflecting off glass and metal, but it was the sky that held their attention. "Look at them," Myra said finally, pointing toward the brightest cluster of stars. "They're so far away, yet they feel close tonight." Aaron nodded. "It's amazing. Being up here makes it feel like we're part of something bigger, doesn't it?" Myra smiled, turning her head to look at him. "Yes. And I'm glad I'm here with you." Aaron felt his chest tighten slightly. He had thought about this moment for days, about what he wanted to say. "Myra, I need to tell you something," he began, his voice a little nervous. She looked at him curiously, tilting her head. "What is it?" He took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about us, about the notes, the paper planes, everything. And I realized I like you. A lot. More than I expected." Myra's eyes widened slightly, her heart skipping a beat. She felt a warmth spread through her chest. You really mean that?" she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Aaron said, meeting her gaze. "I've never felt this way before. And I wanted you to know." For a moment, there was silence. The city lights below shimmered, and the stars above glimmered as if listening. Myra's heart raced. She had wanted to say the same thing, but hearing it aloud from him made it feel real, like a promise. I like you too, Aaron," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I've felt it since the first paper plane. Every note, every drawing, it made me think about you all the time." Aaron's face lit up with a genuine smile. Relief and happiness mingled in his chest. "I'm glad," he said softly. "I was afraid, maybe you didn't feel the same." Myra reached out her hand, and he took it gently. Their fingers intertwined, fitting together naturally, as if they had always belonged. They sat there quietly for a while, hands clasped, hearts beating in rhythm. "You know," Myra said after a moment, I've always thought the rooftop was special. But now, it feels even more special, because of you. Erin squeezed her hand lightly. I feel the same. This place, it brought us together. And I think it will always remind me of this night. They leaned back slightly, still holding hands, and looked at the stars. Neither spoke for a while. Words were no longer needed. The connection between them was clear, unspoken, and strong. Finally, Myra rested her head on Aaron's shoulder. He didn't move, letting her stay there. The cool wind brushed past them, but the warmth of their closeness kept the chill away. Promise me something. Myra asked softly, lifting her head slightly to look at him. Anything, Aaron replied. Promise that, we'll keep sharing moments like this. Quiet nights, paper planes, sunsets, even if life gets busy, she said, her eyes shining in the starlight. Aaron smiled and nodded. I promise. I want to share all of it with you. They stayed on the rooftop until the city lights below dimmed slightly with the late hour. The stars above continued to shine, endless and constant, just like the new bond between them. As Myra finally stood to leave, she turned and smiled at Aaron. Thank you, she said softly. For tonight, for everything. Aaron stood as well, smiling back. Thank you, Myra. For trusting me, and for being you. She waved and descended toward her shuttle, the cool night air wrapping around her. Aaron watched her go, feeling lighter and happier than he had in years. The rooftop helipad had become more than just a quiet escape. It was now the place where two hearts had found each other under the stars, a beginning filled with hope, trust, and the promise of many more shared moments. The first light of dawn crept over the city, turning the sky a soft shade of pink. Aaron arrived at the rooftop helipad early, carrying his sketchpad and a few small tools. Today felt different, lighter, warmer, as if the air itself was filled with possibility. Myra was already there, leaning on the railing and watching the city wake from its slumber. Her hair caught the morning light, and her eyes sparkled with a quiet excitement. When she saw Aaron, she waved, her smile bright and unguarded. Good morning, Aaron said softly as he approached. Good morning, Myra replied. She tilted her head slightly. You seem happy today. I am, Aaron said, smiling. I've been thinking, about us. About everything we've shared on this rooftop. I don't want it to stay just in our memories. I want it to grow, to last. Myra's eyes widened slightly. Grow? What do you mean? Aaron set his sketchpad down and pointed to a small corner of the rooftop that had always been quiet. I want to create something here. A place where people can come, watch the sky, share moments, a place inspired by us. And I want to do it with you. Myra's heart fluttered. She looked around the helipad, imagining benches, soft lights, and little corners where people could leave messages or sketches, much like the paper planes they had shared. That sounds wonderful, she said softly. We could make it a place of hope and connection. Aaron nodded, his eyes shining. Exactly. Just like we found each other here, maybe others can too. They spent the morning planning together, sketching ideas on Aaron's pad. They imagined small benches along the railing, a soft lantern at the corner to guide night visitors, and a little box for notes, where strangers could leave messages, dreams, or even tiny sketches. Each idea was discussed with laughter and excitement, their teamwork strengthening their bond even further. As the sun climbed higher, casting golden light over the city, they paused to look at their work. The helipad, once just a quiet escape, now felt alive with possibility. It was a symbol of their connection, of the moments they had shared, and the future they could build together. "Do you remember the first paper plane?" Myra asked, smiling. Aaron chuckled. "How could I forget? That little plane started all of this." Myra reached out and lightly touched his hand. "And now look at us. From paper planes to planning a rooftop for the whole city." Aaron smiled warmly, squeezing her hand gently. "I'm glad it started with something so small. It reminded me that even little things can grow into something amazing, just like us." For a while, they sat together on the edge of the helipad, watching the city below. The streets were waking, shuttles taking off, people moving about, unaware of the quiet world above. But Aaron and Myra felt like they were in their own universe, a world created from shared glances, small notes, and dreams whispered between the stars. Myra leaned her head on Aaron's shoulder, and he didn't move. The warmth of their closeness was comforting, a reminder of how far they had come in such a short time. "I think this place will always be special," Myra said softly. "It already is," Aaron replied, smiling. "Not because of the view, but because it brought us together." They stayed there in silence, letting the soft breeze and the rising sun fill the space between them. Each of them felt a quiet certainty that their bond was strong enough to face whatever came next. Finally, Myra stood and stretched, a bright smile on her face. "Let's make this place even better," she said. Aaron stood too, taking her hand. "Together," he said simply. And so, the rooftop helipad became more than just a place to watch the sunset or launch paper planes. It became a place of dreams, hope, and connection, a symbol of the love and trust that had grown between two people who had once been strangers. As the sun rose fully over the city, Aaron and Myra stood side by side at the railing, hands intertwined. The world below was busy, loud, and chaotic, but up here, on the rooftop, they had found something rare, each other, and the promise of a shared future filled with small joys, quiet moments, and endless possibilities. The helipad, once just a quiet escape, now belonged to them both, not just as a place, but as a beginning. And together, they looked out at the city, hearts full, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it side by side, ready to reach higher, together.